Welcome to Fort Erie, Ontario. And this is the view of Buffalo they got. Fort Erie was named after Fort Erie. Now we can visit the old fort. Ahead of us, the Peace Bridge, built in 1927, and there's a lineup of trucks trying to get across. Researching Fort Erie, you will read that the first two forts were destroyed by ice storm. Look at this wall here, the new one. The ice storms, it's not freezing rain or anything like that. In the springtime, when all the broken ice is floating down Niagara River, all you need is a little bit of shift in wind, and all that ice is going towards the shore. The Canadian Customs Plaza. When this area belonged to New France, the French have had a trading post here. And in 1764, the British have built the first fort. It was after the French and Indian War. And as I said, the first two ones were destroyed by Lake Erie ice. The last one stood where it was. And during the American Revolution, the fort was used as a depot, logistics center for the British Army as well as the Six Nations. In 1796, after the Jay Agreement, when the boundaries, the borders were drawn, Niagara River became international border. And I'm gonna pull in here. Oof, the wind. Fort Niagara, the other side of Niagara River, on Lake Ontario, had to be given to the Americans. Thus the British had to build a fort to defend against possibly hostile nation. Now this is Fort Erie Railway Museum. Because of the International Railway Bridge, built in 1873, Fort Erie had the third largest train yard in Canada. This is the International Railway Bridge. It goes across to the Unity Island. You can look up the original name. I don't want to pronounce it. And then went across the Black Creek Canal onto the American side, where there was also a big train yard. The bridge created a bottleneck. The trains had to be staged, waited to be allowed to cross. The busiest day, 16th of July, 1916, 264 trains went across in one day. Now the average is about 15 a day. This is why the Toronto, Hamilton and Buffalo Railway Company had to invest in a train ferry that was moving trains with coal between Ashtabula, Ohio and Port Maitland, Ontario. On the other side of Unity Island is where the Americans brought HMS Detroit and HMS Caledonia. Two brigs that were captured by the Americans. October 8th, 1812, a few months after the War of 1812 started, the British anchored two brigs, HMS Caledonia and HMS Detroit, on the lake close to the fort itself. 100 Americans waded through neck-deep waters, carrying two longboats above their heads, got onto those boats and attacked the British. They snatched both ships. Detroit was burned on the other side of Unity Island, but Caledonia was saved. Caledonia had some supplies, and one of those ships had also American POWs. HMS Caledonia became USS Caledonia and served during the war on the American side. Somewhere here there used to be a ferry connection between Buffalo and Fort Erie, and there's to be a little train station. People would board Sandfly Express. Sandfly Express would take people to Waverly Beach. It was an amusement park on the beach with the world's largest swimming pool, rides, attractions. And when Americans were coming on the ferry across, they could see the park from the water. So the kids were already excited. This is where the Friendship Festival used to take place from 1987 to 2019. COVID had put an end to it, and it was never resumed. Fort Erie was taken over by the Americans in 1814. In 1887, construction workers discovered some 41 remains. 28 of them were American soldiers who have fallen during the War of 1812. All the Americans were exhumed, put in separate hearses, and 28 hearses went over the Peace Bridge with full honors, and traffic on the bridge was stopped. Uniformed personnel was saluting the hearses, and they were transferred to Bath National Cemetery. This is Bath National Cemetery, where these 28 unknown soldiers were moved to in 1988. Last thing I want to talk about in this video are the Fenian Raids. In the United States, Fenian Brotherhood has formed, and they wanted independent Ireland. And after the Civil War, a lot of Irishmen who were wearing uniforms of the Confederacy and the Union, on the 1st of June 1866, the Fenian brothers attacked Fort Erie. They have sabotaged disabled USS Michigan, so the American Navy could not stop them from crossing. About 1,000 to 1,300 Irish Americans dressed as Union or Confederate soldiers crossed into Fort Erie and asked the locals to make them breakfast. About 14 hours later, USS Michigan was fixed and stopped the other men from coming across. Local militia from all over Niagara has organized and gathered in Port Colborne and was marching this way. The Fenians have met him at Ridgeway. This is where the Battle of Ridgeway took place. The Fenian brothers versus the Canadian militia. And Battle of Ridgeway was won by the Irish. And because a few generations of immigration have passed, most of the officers, all of the officers on the Canadian side, the British side, were Canadian born and raised. Yeah, the Fenians could not expand on their gains and ferried back to the United States, where they were apprehended by the American Navy. Well, thank you very much for watching this little video.